Hello, welcome to the Vertical Thinking Designer 10-minute video tutorial. We're going to be covering just the basics in this video, enough to get you designing fast. If you're looking to learn more advanced editing techniques, I strongly suggest you watch the advanced videos found just below this one. There's really an awful lot you can do. Alright, let's get started. The first thing we need to do is choose our design. I'm going to go to the Basics category and choose a more basic design. I'll go with this one. That loads up in the editor, and I'll just scroll down a little bit. Okay, there we go. The first thing I'm going to mention is these guides. We see we have a cut line and a text safety, and those terms may be new to you, but the cut line is what you do. Those terms may be new to you, but the cut line is exactly what you would expect it to be. That's where the design is going to be cut after printing. And the text safety line just means that you should not let your text extend beyond that yellow text safety line. Let's talk a little bit about layers. We've got our layers pane over here, and layers contain individual elements of the design. We can select layers by clicking on them. We can turn layers off and on by checking and unchecking this box, and you see that's turning off the business name layer. And we can scroll down to see the rest of the layers. We can turn this layer off. We could delete a layer by dragging to the trash can. We could create a brand new blank layer by clicking on the new layer button. If we wanted to duplicate an existing layer, we could drag it onto the new layer icon. And that created an identical business name layer. I'm going to actually undo that action by going Edit, Undo, because we don't need two of those for now. We can also adjust things like layer settings, and what comes up here is opacity. That means how see-through it is. We can turn that down and up to make the layer more or less see-through. There's different modes, and you can sort of play around with those to get one you like. Turn that back off. And then finally there's something called layer styles here. If we select a layer and then click the layer styles button, that comes up, and this allows us to do interesting effects like drop shadow, and you can see there actually is a drop shadow applied here, and I can adjust the settings of that. You see that drop shadow on the business name getting darker and lighter. We can adjust the angle of the drop shadow, the size, all kinds of things. I'm going to hit cancel, and that gives you a general introduction to layers. Now we're going to talk about tools and how we can use those to manipulate those individual layers. The first thing we'll talk about is this Move tool. You can see I've got selected here, so click there to select the Move tool. Select the layer you want to move. I'm selected on the business name layer, and then simply click and drag, and that will move that business name layer anywhere we desire. I'm going to move it up a bit, and then we can select a separate layer, the Jane Smith layer, and we can also move that up if we wish. That is the Move tool. We'll talk about one more tool in the basics tutorial. You can see there's lots of different tools here, and they do lots of different things, but we'll just cover two in the basics. We'll talk about the Type tool, the one with the letter A. If we select the Type tool, there's a couple of things we can do. One, we can click into any blank space to create a new type layer, and it comes up with a dialog asking me to put in my type. And I can choose fonts, I can choose size, I can choose the style, I can even choose the color. Clicking that color box brings up a color selector window. And from the outer wheel, we choose the basic color, and from the inner box we get more specific to choose the color we want. I'm just going to cancel that out. And you see we've created this text layer. If we come back to the layers panel, there is a new text layer that it has intelligently called "This is some text." Now I'm going to delete that layer. The second thing we can do with the type tool is actually edit existing text layers. So if I click on the business name layer and I still have the type tool selected and I hover the mouse over business name, you'll see that little plus icon just to the top right of my cursor. Don't know if you can see that little plus icon change to a down arrow, and when I click above the text it brings up the text dialog again, but now it's editing that existing layer, and I can give this a more meaningful name. And I could change the font, the size, the style, or the color. I'm going to leave them the same for now. And then I'm going to click on the Jane Smith layer, again on the type tool, and click to edit. And I'll change this as well. And I'm going to choose a different font. Go with Arial. I'm going to leave the size the same. I might go with bold italic here though. And why not change the color? Now again, I can choose my color manually, but there is another way. If I hover my mouse outside of the color selector window, it actually changes the cursor to an eyedropper, and it lets me eyedrop in colors from anywhere in the window, even from the menu headers, etc. I'm going to just grab from this red area because I think it would be great if this block of red and this font were the same color. Say OK and OK, and that looks pretty good. Now say you wanted to create a whole new layer that had an identical style to one of these existing layers. So because we have a drop shadow, we have a certain font and a certain size, all kinds of things. Rather than creating a new layer which sort of starts from scratch, we can just duplicate one of these existing layers. Now I mentioned this earlier when we talked about layers, but I'll show you again. If I'm selected on this bottom set of text here and I drag it onto the new layer icon, that creates a duplicate. I'm going to click on the Move tool, and you'll see that in fact there is two identical layers there. I'm going to move it down. I'm going to go back to the Type tool, hover my mouse over that layer, and I'm selected on that layer over here, and you can see I'm editing that particular layer. I'm going to select all this text, delete it, and put in a company slogan. And you can see it's exactly the same font style as that, so it blends in very, very well. Let's pretend that this design is done. We could do more, but just for the sake of the illustration, let's show how to save the design. It's really like any other program. You click File, Save. You'll want to give it a meaningful name. I'll call it Jonathan's Cards. Click OK. Wait for that to save. And there you go. Your design has been saved. Now this says, please bookmark this page for future editing or reference. And there is a link back to your design. Now you're going to want to bookmark this just like it says, because this is your link back to your design. If you have completed your design, you're happy with the way it looks, you want to send it to us to create an order, Then fill out this form with your name, email, phone number, and comments, and hit the send button. I know we said this is the basics video, but I'm going to give you a little bonus advanced tip. I'm going to click Edit Design Jonathan's Cards to go back to the design. That will load up. Scroll that down a little. And I'm going to show you how you can add pictures from your own computer into this design. This is really great for customizing the design with things like your own picture, your company logo, or product shots you may have. The way we do this is we say Layer, so I'm going to the Layer menu, and I choose the option Open Image as Layer. And this is going to do just what that says. It's going to open an image from your computer as a layer in your design. I'm on my desktop, and you can see I have a JPEG there called Remax Logo. I'm going to click Open, and voila! You can see that that logo has been inserted into the design, and if we look in the Layers pane, it's on its very own layer, which we can turn off and on, or we can move. I'm going to select the Move tool and move it to a more appropriate location. That looks much better. Now, one last thing, perhaps this is too big. It probably is, actually. I'm going to show you how to resize images. So we're going to go Edit from the Edit menu, and we're going to choose the Free Transform option. I will click that option, and you see a bounding box comes up here. Now we can edit vertically, horizontally, or there's a third option. I'm actually going to hit Escape here, my Escape key, to get out of that, and I'm going to show you a way that allows you to keep the aspect ratio, meaning it doesn't get squished or stretched or just distorted. Again, I'm going to select Edit, Free Transform, the bounding box appears. Now I'm going to press my Shift key, holding that down, and as I hold down the Shift key, I will use the corner box to scale it down, and you see how it maintains its aspect ratio. I'm going to scale it down to a size I'm happy with. Let's say I'm happy with that, and now I'm going to hit Enter. Now I'm still selected on the Move tool, so I'm going to move it one more time to a more appropriate location. There we go. Now, like I say, you could repeat that process to include your picture here. Again, Layer, Open Images Layer, a product shot, anything you want. The sky's the limit. That's the end of the video. Have fun, and again, check out those advanced videos if you're looking for some more advanced tips.